don't try and keep up. Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. Just worry about
Mm.
keeping up with yourself, because that's
Mm.
really the only thing that matters, and that's the only thing that's actually within your control.
Financial Superwomen brings you all things money and finance. Creating financial independence can often be scary or confusing. Here, money management, wealth creation, and financial security is simplified to help you build a solid financial foundation. Plus, with Broken to Brilliant, Financial Superwomen provide free financial workshops for female family violence survivors. In the coming years, workshops to create financial supermen will also be realized. Financial Superwomen, giving you confidence to build a sustainable financial future.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Superwomen radio show and podcast. Here we discuss all things money and finance. And today it is my wonderful pleasure to have Melissa Meagher on the show. Melissa is the founder of Talking Money. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone.
It's a great pleasure. And do you want to start telling us a little bit of your background? Because you have a background in finance, but then you
Yeah,
transitioned to doing something slightly different. Do you want to
yeah.
explain what that difference is?
Yeah, sure, sure. So I was in finance. I've been saying I was in finance for 20 years for quite a long time now. So it's probably quite a lot, bit longer than 20 years, but I'll keep it as 20 years. I was predominantly a financial planner. I was a stockbroker for 4 years in the tech boom, which was pretty amazing, fun, crazy time. And was I've worked for I was a seminar delivery specialist, and I've worked for the big banks. I've worked for a superannuation fund. I've worked for the boutique financial planning firm. So I've had a very diverse exposure, I guess, to all things finance. And when was it, 2013? I just kept having these conversations with people that were very, very good at what they did, either whether, if they were employed or self-employed or whatever the case was. And I'd had these conversations wherever I was working and whatever I was doing. And um, there's this expectation in society that if you're good at what you do, and these people were really good at what they did, and very high achievers and very successful in their careers and that sort of thing. There's this expectation, if you're good at what you do, that you're also good with money. You're good with managing your money, understanding your money, investing your money, all those sorts of things. And more times than not, that's not true. There is actually no correlation between being good at what you do and being good with money, because as we talked at the beginning of our conversation, a lot of times we haven't been taught this information. We don't have the
Mm.
skills or the knowledge or the understanding of what's going on. But the thing is, because these people were, for all intents and purposes, very successful, they wanted to make sure that everything looked, very successful on the outside. And I'm realizing that they didn't have the skills or the knowledge around money,
Mm.
which first of all caused quite a lot of embarrassment and shame. So, which is because I wanted to make the outside look still look bright and shiny, and then really led them to making decisions that weren't serving them around money,
Mm.
which then sort of led on to a bit of a down spiral. So I kept having these conversations with people, and I went, these people don't necessarily. I mean, they might still need financial advice or whatever, but they really need just someone to have a conversation around their personal finances. So I left corporate, and started up my own business, which was 8 years ago. It wasn't even a thing, money coaching. Or I started off by calling myself a financial coach. Now it's become a bit
Mm.
more mainstream. But I sort of thought, I mean, I didn't want to be licensed. I didn't want to give advice. I just wanted to. I mean, the whole ethos of starting my business was to create a safe space about
Mm.
having a real conversation around money, not what it looks like on the outside, not what you think it should look like, not what everyone tells you should look like, not what the Joneses next door are doing. It's actually really, pulling that curtain back and really shining the light on your finances, because it's only when you do that that you're in the position to be able to, well, feel empowered and in control for a start, and not
Mm.
live in fear, and then be able to move forward.
How much of that, I mean, we mentioned the Joneses get a bad rap, I think, but how much of the money problems come around from this comparison to other people and thinking you should be like other people?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's muddling it. Like, I mean, everyone. I say that, very generalizing, but I think a lot of people are just muddling along, and everyone thinks that everyone knows what they're doing, and the funny
The
thing
blind
is,
leading the blind here.
yeah, exactly. And what I've always said is that don't try and keep up. Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. Just worry about keeping up with yourself, because that's really the only thing that matters, and that's the only thing that's actually within your control. So, really important to not have a look at other people and what's going on, what's happening to them, because if you sort of just look under the hood a little bit of these people that all look, there can be lots of other stuff going on, which I've seen firsthand with a lot of people, that it looks all amazing on the outside, but you scratch a little bit and just below the surface, it's like a house of cards.
And that's why I was wondering from that perspective, how important is it, and it's probably a rhetorical question, but for the people out there, how important is it, to get that foundation right before trying to do other things? And what is that foundation?
Yeah, I think it's so vital, because the things, if you don't, I mean, it's a foundation of a house. If you don't have those solid foundations in place, when you build the structure or the framework, it's not going to hold.
Yeah.
And I guess so. That's a really important thing. And I use the analogy sometimes with people with their money is, if you get up in the middle of the night to go to the loo or get a drink of water, you're bumping around in the dark and you're knocking your shins and bumping into things and stuff like that. And then when you turn the light on, you go, oh, yes, I do know where everything is. And I think our finances our money and our finances are a little bit like that. We kind of know what's going on, but we're sort of bumping around in the middle of the night. And as I said before, it's not, so you really, pull that curtain back and shine the light on your finances, that you actually can see what's going on. And a lot of people don't want to look at that, because they don't want to know what they don't know, but it's actually what's keeping them small and keeping them fearful and keeping them in scarcity and lack and all those sorts of things. And so that's that's always my starting point when I'm working with people, supporting people, is just, look, let's get a lay of the land, a bird's eye view of where you are right here, right now. Doesn't matter, not good, right, wrong, good or bad, doesn't matter what's happened in the past, because the past is the past. It's done now. And so let's just, draw a line in the sand and actually have a look at what's going on right now, because you need to understand that first to be able to then move forward.
And when we're looking at that, because I have a philosophy that the life is easy, which is contrary to what's out there. People, we taught you got to work hard. It's struggle. If you study Zen, life is suffering. So there's a whole gamut of things out there that are, talk about it being really hard. And when you're talking, because sounds like that foundation you're talking about dealing with is how people think about money. And from that perspective, you mentioned scarcity and lack. And I'm just wondering, because, and I used to feel I was alone with this life is easy thing, but then I read a quote that was, life is easy, but we insist on making it complicated. And
yes.
Confucius said that. So I went, hang on a minute, I'm not alone here.
No, 100% not. And look, that's a really interesting, I do the tangible, know your numbers, understand your money pot and stuff like that, but which is all really, really important for obviously the reasons we just talked about. But for me, that's really clearing the space to then go and look at our money mindset, our money stories, our beliefs, our programming, if we've got any blocks and stuff like that. And that's, what you were talking about is, and I didn't realize that I was still carrying that around for a long time, is that I had a belief, and it's from my sorry, can you still hear?
Yeah. Oh no, just lost you.
I'm so sorry. My cord wasn't in my laptop properly, and the battery went flat. So it just completely logged me out, and I'm back. So my apologies for that. I'm back.
So does that fall under the battery mindset here and getting that right?
I don't know what that's all about.
That's all good. All
Sorry
good.
about
I was sitting there
that.
talking, and it was all going well, and then
I was gone.
Then you were gone. I was like, yeah, no,
like, right, I'm finished. I'm done now. I'm finished.
But we were talking about the For the audience, we just had a little minor technical hiccup, and I'll put a little bleep in there where we get that, and you get the technical. So you've actually gone through that, audience. You've gone to. So we'll put that in there.
Oh, cool.
But I like to, because I think in today's world, there's a lot of plastic out. You mentioned about comparing to the Joneses, and there's so much out there. When you look at, everyone presents this, and we have these photo adjusters that adjust what we look like. And it's just one of those things where I think we need to have a little bit more of, hey, it's real life. Sometimes you will trip over. I remember that. We've all tripped over in the street and got embarrassed. And then one day I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. And I wasn't planning to trip over. But when I did, I did a little trip in the street, and then I went, yeah, and everyone clapped. And I was like, okay, let's not worry about it.
Exactly.
And that's what I was, and I'm bringing that in from that perspective of this focus on other people and recognizing that. Because you remember the movie Crocodile Dundee, and
yes.
they got a psychiatrist, and they said, well, you probably don't have a psychiatrist to walk about Creek, and Mick Dundee goes, no, if we have a problem, we tell Wally. Wally tells everybody else, no more problem.
Exactly.
And that's why I love what you're doing, because it's talking about this thing that everyone, I think, deals with, and then we get. Because you said you're fumbling around in the dark, and you go, not sure. But when you turn the light on, all of a sudden you see, well, actually, there's a whole bunch of other people here experiencing this same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, too, when the light's on, it's a lot clearer, because is it? And that's why I wanted to understand this mental component of it, where because to me it seems really easy. If you want to be wealthy, save part of what you earn, invest that, reinvest the income. Now, that's not a difficult instruction. But is it a part of having patience with that? Is that part of having that discipline to wait for example, a right investment? Warren Buffett talks about that. There's a right investment. The market will move up and down, and you've just got to have the patience to buy when it's cheap, as opposed to when things are expensive. Is part of that having that mindset of going, okay, I'm not going to be going out to dinner tonight because that's not within our budget. We plan that accordingly, and having that discipline. Is that where part of this lies?
I guess, Dave, I think it's both. I think the answer is both on that. I think it's it's really important to get a really good handle of your financial commitments. And I mean, I sort of break our financial commitments up into sort of or financial into a lot fixed costs, which is all your big ticket items, and then lifestyle spending, which is your sort of your fun stuff, all your other stuff that's not your bills and that sort of thing. And I don't even particularly like doing budgets. I don't even like the word budget, because the minute you say budget, it's just like, it's horrible. Exactly. And so I like to make I call it the spending plan. And I always say, okay, well, let's get really clear on what's important to you. What's important to you for lifestyle. Is it having money way to go, putting money way to go on a holiday each year? Is it going on a date night every week with your partner and getting a babysitter? What it can be anything, and is important to buy, buy yourself yeah, exactly. Whatever. For me at the moment, my daughter's semi-formals coming up, so it's all semi-formal stuff. But it's not denying yourself or going without. It's actually having a look at the pot. Now, this is after you've got money allocated. I've got a whole system that I use, money allocated to make sure that there's money available to pay your bills. But then being really, really clear on what's important to you for lifestyle spending and that sort of thing. So, and making sure then that there is money allocated for those things. So it's not like it's sort of, I really flip it, I reframe it of, it's not, well, okay, well, what's left over and then what can we do? No, let's really take in, make some very conscious decisions around what's important to us. And obviously it's always, it's a work in progress, but it's just, and sometimes the mix of the money pot has to change, and you might have to change things a little bit or ease back over here. And if you want to do that, but once again, once you have that understanding, once you have that knowledge, you can make educated, informed decisions around what's going on. So that's kind of the tangible side of it. I think also, the other side with the mindset is that you really have to understand your relationship with money, what your relationship with money is, because it doesn't matter if you've got $100 or $1 million, the same stuff will keep showing up. It doesn't make any difference. It's not about, my favorite saying in my business is, I come in the money, but it's actually not about the money.
Yeah.
Money is the effect, not the cause. So it's actually really understanding your relationship with money, and your money story, how money was spoken about when you're growing up, all those sorts of things. That's the engine room of what's driving the show with regards to how money, how we're interacting with money, where it's showing up in our life, how it's impacting us, how we feel about it, all those sorts of things. It's it's this. Yeah.
How does that, from that perspective, because we hear a lot of the times, it's a, and you've mentioned this as well, with people that are that don't have a lot of money or don't have a high income, sometimes will look at it and go, oh, if only I earned more money. But the people you've dealt with, and I know this is the case, that people that earn a substantial amount of money still have financial problems. So it's not the quantity you earn. And I put that in comparison to my grandparents as well. I mean, my grandparents came out here as war refugees. My grandfather never learnt English. He worked as a labourer. That's all he did. He was a labourer his entire life. Yet they were able to, one, he saved money to buy land, then saved money to build a house, then saved money when my parents got married. They gave that house to my parents, and my grandmother and grandfather had saved enough money to buy another house with cash, and he was a labourer.
Yeah.
So is it really this looking ahead to going, oh, if I just earned more money, that would solve my problems?
Yeah, and so if you are thinking like that, you are actually giving away your power, because you're saying there's something external from me, something else external from me has to happen in order for me to be able to feel, to be successful and wealthy and to be able to do the things I want to do. So that's that's really giving away your power.
Yeah.
And kind of, even in a bit of victim mode, because this is not my fault if I just earn more money. I mean, obviously. The more money you earn, the more choice you have. The more freedom and choice you have. But I've come across people over the last, 20, 30 years. They're on, low, sort of pretty average incomes, and had a portfolio of investment properties. Do you know what I mean? Because they just, like the tortoise and the hare, like just
millionaire next door.
Yeah, and like you would never, come across these people, and you would never know in a million years that they are, in full intents purposes, wealthy. Which is, an interesting, what does I always when I talk to people, I always sort of say, well, what does wealth mean to you? Because I don't think wealth is, being wealthy is not just around money. Money is definitely a component of that, but there's lots of other things in our life that add or that contribute to actually the feeling of, I think, of being wealthy.
That was something that was a real eye-opener for me, because, as I mentioned, I didn't come from a big money background. We never had. I don't recall missing out on anything, but we just had fun. So, I mean, my sister and I remember in our house we made a racetrack out of cushions and stuff like that, and pushed prams around, racing each other.
Yeah. So, old school fun.
Yeah, but I was wondering, because you're talking about wealthy there, and I said it was a real eye-opener for me, because I had the good fortune of being in a position of being around very wealthy people. My stepdaughters went to one of the more exclusive schools here, and there were a lot of wealthy people that I got to know, and they were genuinely wealthy, not the ones where it's all on credit cards and stuff like that. What I noticed when you're talking about wealth, it wasn't for them, as I was gleaning from discussing with them, wasn't about the money. It was, they had all these other, they contributed to charities. They were focused on spending time with their family, going for a walk around the park. These were the things that they talked about. I mean, I'm guessing they talked about money too, but it was that wealth was more, that foundation of, all those foundations. How much of that do you think contributes, if you've got that roundness to you, have that enables you to have the wealth yourself?
Yeah, look, I think it's absolutely. I think it's once again, it's all of the above answer. I mean, obviously, it's important to it's not the focus of how much money you've had or you have. It's actually, well, what is your relationship with money? How does money show up in your life? How does it impact you? And I'll challenge anyone that I ever come across that, and it'd be interesting to, get your thoughts on this, Damien, but, how money was spoken about or how money was, treated when we were growing up, I'll challenge anyone that that's not showing up somewhere in our adult life. Now, that might be just directly related to our, how we interact with money, our relationship with money. It might be showing up in our personal relationships, because obviously there's, there can be a lot of, a lot of rub in personal relationships around money, because everyone's got different money stories.
Yes.
And then also in a professional life, because the other thing is it comes back to our self-worth. Like that's, when I said it's the effect, not the cause, a lot of the stuff around money is self-worth, it's ego, it's, all that sort of stuff. So I think, I think it's important to understand the relationship with money, but not actually be completely obsessed and focused on money, because I've got a wheel of wealth that I've come up with that, that there's 6 parts of being wealthy is money. But it's our health, it's our relationships, our family, it's our personal development, our growth, spiritual growth. There's all these other things that make up the wheel, and only a small a part of that is money, but it's not it's part of the wheel of wealth.
It's an interesting point that you mentioned that, because, and to put that into a practical context, I've flown to Nice with my family. We've had a private helicopter charter us to Monaco, which is really cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
to say that was fulfilling in and of itself, it wasn't. It was, yes, it was fun. It was highly recommended if you've got the opportunity to do that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But if that was
Absolutely.
all my life was, then it wasn't. I had so many other things in there that made it worthwhile, and what that sounds like what is making up that money wheel that you're talking about. And if it's not perfectly round, your life's going to be pretty bumpy. Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, exactly. So, and which gets back to what we're saying about, you could have all the money in the world, and we know, like, there's, everyone knows people that have got a lot of money, and they're desperately unhappy because they don't, it's because they don't have the other parts of the wheel, or they don't understand their relationship with money, or their self, around their self-worth and stuff like that. So there is so much more to this than just money. Like and if we focus just on that, it's it's not going to serve us.
Yeah,
It's
and does
actually
that
not going to serve us.
does it become a detriment to us as well when we look at it and go, oh, there's really wealthy people that aren't happy? Does that become become a negative for us, in the sense of preventing us from actually having a good relationship with money, if that becomes our focus?
Yeah, totally. Like there's all sorts of things. Like, everyone, yourself and everyone that's listening to this, we'll all have some throwaway comments around money that we heard about when we were growing up. Like, money doesn't grow on trees, or, you have to, like what we are talking about before, you have to work really hard, and there has to be a lot of blood, sweat and tears to get anywhere in this life and be successful. And my favorite, I think my standout all-time favorite is, you can't be wealthy and be a nice person. So if you have, or, wealthy people aren't nice people, or, so if you have grown up, and this is a really interesting thing, and I challenge people a lot on this, if you've grown up all your life being told you can't be a nice person and be wealthy, I can guarantee you'll be doing everything, not consciously, but subconsciously, because we all want to be nice people. We all want to be thought of as a nice person. You will be doing everything subconsciously to repel money, because you've been told this is, these are these beliefs that we have in our, sitting inside ourselves, that I can't be a nice person and I can't have money. So what's it going to be? And I can guarantee you, we want to be liked and we want to be nice people. And so we will be repelling everything.
That's really fascinating, and I find that, for me,
repelling money.
Yeah, because I find that really interesting from my own journey, because I had some of that growing up. And then when I actually met the people that I met that were really, really, really wealthy, they were they would go out of there was people I said, oh, can I, buy your coffee and have a chat and ask you some questions? They always made time for me, and we'd have lunch or something like that, and I'd offer to buy it, but they'd always pay. And they would always give me their time, which their time is extremely valuable. Time is valuable for everybody.
Yeah.
But and but they would always be very generous. So that's why for me, it was a really big eye opener that the whole, whether you're a nice person has nothing to do with whether you've got money or not. That's just
No,
a choice.
no. So how did that impact you? Like, I mean, from what you, because obviously that blew a few things out of the water for you by the sounds of it. Like, I mean, but how did that impact your belief systems or beliefs or, and stories around money?
Yeah, I didn't really explore it in too much detail beforehand, and I kind of don't really want to now because I've got a belief system around money's awesome. It's something that enables you to do stuff, and when you look at financial women, financial superwomen, and the things that have happened with that, and also my ability to help with that as well, that came down to having money. If I didn't have the money, wouldn't have been able to do it. And the other areas where I've helped people in life, it's because I've had the money to do that. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the beliefs were. We never really talked about money when I was growing, which was interesting because my dad was the treasurer of a lot of the clubs we were on, and he would bring home the money from the things, and we would count it as a family. So maybe we had some of that, the counting component there.
Yeah. Like it was actually, look at you were actually
Mm.
touching it and handling it and counting it. And you mean that's a lot of things kids today, well, you mean even people our age and stuff like that. We have this really weird relationship with money because a lot of times we don't touch it. We could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something, or buy homes or whatever, and we don't interact with it. We don't touch it. Like, you mean, and that's, I often talk to people about, I present about talking to your kids about money. And I said, this is one of the things is actually give them money to go and buy things with, give them tangible cash to actually, or, even give it to them to go and put in the bank, put in their account, but actually to actually interact and touch and have some interaction with actual hard cash.
Yeah.
So they understand that it is actually real. It's not just this this constant flow of stuff coming from a hole in the wall. Or if you tap your card or tap your phone, it's it's okay. It's actually understanding. And that's it's and then you can really start talking about the value of money. And there's a lot of grown-ups probably a little bit like that as well. But it's just we have this kind of dysfunctional relationship with money because it's something that's there but it's not there.
It's interesting that foundation, because I have those conversations with my son in kind of an indirect way. There were things that I get him to do, and then I'd ask him, what does he think it's worth? And then he'd give me the value of what it's, and a lot of times it was a lot less than I was willing to pay. So it's like, okay, I'll shut up.
Well, when my daughter said to me, Mum, when I grow up, my first car, I either want a Hyundai or a Lamborghini. I went, right. We need to have a chat about money, and and not that there's anything wrong with either of those, but
you can have any car that you want to go and buy that you've earned money for.
Exactly, but we need to have a chat about the the value of money and those sorts of things. But it was it was funny, and look, I've always talked to my before I started really delving into, mindset and money stories and stuff like that, I used to always say to the kids, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. And then when I realized, because, this is where there's a lot of people say, okay, well, what is my money story? Or if I've got limiting beliefs and blocks, what can I do? Or how can I change it? And, the thing is actually our thoughts, and it's actually our thoughts and what comes out of our mouth. So, for the example for me, when I stopped saying, and, when I actually understood that and got that, the impact it was having on the kids, the impact it was having on me, when I actually stopped saying we can't afford it, because when I was saying it, guess what was happening?
Exactly.
Yeah. Be careful, what you wish for.
Yeah.
But and the universe doesn't go, well, you don't want it, you just because you're focusing on it, well, we'll give you some more of that. So whether it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. But so when I actually, made a conscious decision to stop saying that, and actually really reframing what I said to the kids, it made a huge difference. It had made a huge difference to myself, and it made a huge difference to them. A way that they, because they started mirroring back to me what I was saying. Like, and they'd say, "Oh, yeah, my mum, what are we choosing to spend our money on this?" So it was, it was a very different conversation than, "Oh, well, yeah, we can't afford it. Oh, well, why can't we afford it?" That whole conversation that doesn't, why, that kids do. But it was a lot different conversation that we had around it.
And from that perspective, is it as simple as working and going, okay, I just need to change how I'm talking about money and just start, talking about it differently, identifying those things and changing them? And what are some of the good things that you can say about money?
Yeah. Look, I always like to go back and, take a few steps back before we move forward, and obviously then actually really uncovering what your money story is. So, things like, how was money, what we've talked about now at the moment, how was money spoken about when you're growing up? How do you feel when you think about money? How would you describe your current relationship with money? What was your mother's relationship? What was your father's relationship? Even, what was your grandparents' relationship with money? Because that was, we will, all those things will have formed, because we get them, obviously, most of our stuff from our family of origin, and it's passed down, and the stories are passed down through our family of origin, and they're the ones that we hang out with the most when we're little people, when we actually form all these beliefs.
Yeah.
So I think it's always good to find that, get that baseline of, well, where is this? And it's just as probably as simple as saying, well, how was money spoken about when I was growing up? And if you don't know, go back and have a chat to your parents, because I've had lots of clients that have actually had really
Wow.
amazing, powerful, cathartic, forgive, these amazing conversations, because, growing as a child, you look at through your lens as a child, and what you're not getting, and what's, it's the worst, you're the worst hard done by person in the world and stuff like that. And then, a lot of my clients that have actually gone and back and had conversations with their parents and actually really understood what was actually going on.
Wow.
Just amazing, aha moments, and just like, oh wow, it's a lot of cleansing, and cathartic's probably the best word I can think of it. So it's really, it's actually interesting to go back, and even, one thing is to think about, well, how was money spoken about when we grew up, or how was money interacted with, and where is that potentially showing, or where is that showing up in my life? But then, then the thing is also, what you were saying, it's a great thing to really start, and it's an exercise I do with my clients, is actually, well, all this, this chatter, this constant chatter we have in our brains, in our heads, which is usually not particularly nice, not particularly complimentary about ourselves. So just actually really start observing what our thoughts and what we think about money, and also what's actually coming out of our mouth around money. Getting back to the "I can't afford it" thing, and just actually, because that's where we can change. We can break the cycle. We can change the pattern. We can actually change how our thinking is around money. It always used to be a bit out there and woo-woo, but now they've actually, as they've actually proven you can change your neural pathways. You can actually change the way that you're thinking, and that sort of thing. So that's where you can actually change it, because then obviously what happens with your thoughts goes into, an emotion, and then, your reality, and that sort of thing. So if you can change it at where your thoughts are, and if you're thinking over here of, practicing gratitude and your perfect day, and, all these things that I do with my clients, instead of actually looking at what you're missing out on, what you don't have enough of, how terrible it is, and if you actually stop over here and actually start focusing over here, you get to the point where you can't even remember what you used to, like, all the, the negative stuff that you used to think about.
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about before. From my perspective, you asked me about what that was, and it's like, I don't even want to go back there. I don't need to.
You're done. Yeah.
Yeah. If we're going to wrap it up with a nutshell, something that you want the audience to take away, what would be a key wisdom or wisdoms that you'd want them to take away in respect of the money situation and changing their financial position?
Yeah. Look, I think it's don't focus on the past of what has, it's not where you are right here. It's get a really clear picture of where you are right here, right now. Not right, wrong, good, bad. No pulling yourself over the coals of it. Yeah, sure, things might have happened in the past that weren't great and everything, but there is no benefit of focusing on the past. It's just bad. I mean, it's there's nothing that can be done. And I think also, focusing too much on the future as well, you can get very, very caught up in, okay, well, it's got to be like this, and, this is going to happen in the future and stuff like that. It's actually really focusing right here and right now, where you are, and get that really good handle of it, and be present and be conscious about your situation and what's happening, what you're spending your money on, what's going on with your money story. It's not until you can actually do that right here, right now. And don't lament on the past, don't lament on the future, don't worry about the future, because it's, a lot of times it's just a lot of, what I remember reading some stats of, the percentage of stuff we worry about, but there's never even going to happen.
Well, that's why they say worry works. Most of what you worry about never happens.
Well, let's just completely cut it out. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
In the first place, just, be present and and practice, joy and abundance and gratitude and an amazing, and focusing on all the amazing, great stuff.
Yeah.
That's happening. And, obviously financial superwomen, there's, a lot of women have been through horrific situations and are still, still experiencing, not great situations and stuff like that. But, and I'm always so humbled and so amazed after spending a day, at the workshops, of coming away and going, these women are absolutely amazing, and they've still got that, they've got that get up and that go, and they've got, they've just got that, because they're just putting one foot in front of the other and actually just doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
It's just, crazy amazing. So I guess it's just, focus on where you are. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Don't make it right or wrong or good or bad. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And when you actually, pull that curtain back and actually shine the light and see what's going on, then you're in the position to go forward, because one of my favourite sayings is, the best map in the world is no good if you don't know where you are.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Melissa, it's been so wonderful having you on the Financial Superwomen podcast and radio show. Thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your amazing wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being part of the Financial Superwomen team and helping create financial security for people around the world. Financial security helps build overall security for women and men.